We should be back live.
Okay. I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Roll call, Amy?
Sabrina,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
action.
No action. We got to call Todd.
Amy, can you reach out to Todd and let him know to call in? He called in and then we asked him, we said we'd tell him when to call. Do we want to do miscellaneous items while we wait?
Move that the Board of Commissioners approve the April 16th, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners accepts the donation to the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for COVID-19 response.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes. This next one came at the response of AMAT reaching out to us about the MSA, and I asked if it would be helpful to do a resolution, reached out to the Summit County executive, Summit County Council is planning to do a resolution, and this would just, support the effort not to eliminate our statistical area in the U.S. Census.
Yeah.
Following the template language that AMAT provided to be helpful to us in this advocacy.
Yeah.
I move that the Board of Commissioners opposes the elimination of the U.S. Census Akron Metropolitan Statistical Area.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes. All right, do we have you with us, Todd?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you want to do the, yeah, Vicky, do you want to do the journal entries real quick, and then we can be left with all of Todd's stuff?
Move that the Board of Commissioners acknowledges receipt of the April 14, 2020 notice from Faith Lyon and Teresa Nielsen, Portage County Board of Elections, indicating the days and hours that the Board of Elections will be open to the public, continuing to conduct the primary election originally scheduled for March 17, 2020.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners acknowledges receipt of the April 14, 2020 notice of Faith Lyon and Teresa Nielsen, Portage County Board of Elections regarding special election cost estimate pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 3501.17J. Special election in Portage County is currently scheduled for August 4th, 2020.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes. All right, Todd, we are ready for you. Thanks for
Okay,
calling back in.
Oh, sure. Do you want to do the resolutions first and then the discussion?
Sure.
Or,
Yeah, let's do that.
okay, with the resolutions that are on the agenda, the bill run, I apologize. I sent it to myself and for some reason it didn't go to anyone else, but it's a very light bill run this week. There's no late fees, in fact, which is unusual, but good. The then and nows are down to 116,000, and there's nothing unusual anywhere else. So those four resolutions have no issues with them.
Okay. Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to approve the Thursday, April 23, 2020 bills, ACH payments as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners. Department of Budget and Management, Department of Internal Services, or other designee.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to approve the Thursday, April 23, 2020 wire transfers for health benefits as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners, Department of Budget and Financial Management, Department of Internal Services, or other designee.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky.
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to approve the Thursday, April 23, 2020 wall vouchers as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners, Department of Budget and Financial Management, Department of Internal Services, or other designee.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to approve the Thursday, April 23, 2020 then and now certification as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners, Department of Budget and Financial Management, Department of Internal Services, or
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of
Number 5 is the Marine Patrol grant. That's a standard grant. It does have a small local match, but we have already budgeted for that. It's an annual grant that we've gotten for years.
Okay.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to accept the grant award from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Division of Watercraft Marine Patrol Assistance Grant Program for the Portage County Sheriff.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
So do you want to do the add-ons before we do the journal entries?
Yeah.
Okay. Move that the amendment to the General Fund 2020 Annual Appropriation Resolution number 19-0947 adopted December 19th, 2019.
Todd, did
And
you, anything?
Yeah, if you look on here, there's, I believe, 45,000 to Department 12, which is Joanne. That is to start work on removing the fuel tanks at the motor pool. I'm not sure if she brought that to you before or not. Otherwise, the rest of that budget amendment is budgeting the grants that the courts just received. In fact, we just got notice Tuesday afternoon for some pretty significant amounts that the Supreme Court has awarded our courts in order to buy distance, virtual equipment so they can practice social distancing.
Good, good. Okay. I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move to apply.
And then
Go ahead, Todd.
Yep. the next 3 are just the grants. They rushed the applications in. They already have been awarded, and now we're doing the resolutions to finalize things so that spending can begin. The Common Pleas Court got 21,000, which is the first resolution. Domestic Relations got 36,000, which is the second resolution. And then the Juvenile Court got 4,300, and the Juvenile Detention Center piggybacked on that for another 4,500 so that they would be able to communicate with each other. So that's those 3 grants.
Good. Okay.
I don't see the 4,500. Is the 4,500 on here?
The juvenile
40.
one is for 8,000, but it is made of 2 pieces. 4,300 is going to the juvenile court, and 4,500 is going to the juvenile detention center.
Oh, I see. On the one page, it's not listed. In the actual resolution, it is, but on the front page, it just says juvenile court 4359. I see what you're saying, Todd. It's actually listed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually in the first whereas.
Motion to apply for and accept the grant award from the Supreme Court of Ohio on behalf of the Portage County Common Pleas Courts.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Motion for applying for and accept the grant award from the Supreme Court of Ohio on behalf of the Portage County Domestic Relations Court.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Motion for applying and accept the grant award from the Supreme Court of Ohio on behalf of the Portage County Common Pleas Court Juvenile Division.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Okay, now we'll go to the journal entries. Or I guess we've only got one. Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
that's the EMA reimbursement. That's a standard quarterly reimbursement amount, and that's the normal amount. We don't apply for the same amount every time, but that's in the ballpark of what we usually apply for.
Okay. I move that the Board of Commissioners authorizes Commissioner Kathleen Clyde, President of the Board, to sign the sixth quarter cash reimbursement request in the amount of $56,391.71 for the EMPG for year 19, quarter 6 grant as prepared by the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Office and reviewed by the Department of Budget and Financial Management with no exceptions noted. Copies of this request will be kept on file at the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Office.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes. All
Okay,
right, we're
I'm,
ready for the discussion.
discussion. I updated this spreadsheet that I gave you. This is what we looked at. It was either September or October of last year when we were doing budgeting. And so what I did was, if you look at line 2 there under the adjustments, I now put in a negative 1.5 million in 2020. That is currently a rough estimate of what I think we should plan on doing without. That assumes that the social distancing will continue through May. So if it actually does end earlier, we may get some of that. If it goes longer, though, it would be more than that. And then
How do
you can kind of,
How do you come up with that number, Todd, based on, when you say social distancing, do you mean the stay-at-home order from the governor?
so right now, that estimate is mainly sales tax. You guys got the email from Brad saying that he did not want to commit to an estimate on what we're going to lose in property tax delinquencies. So I did not put that in because I didn't want to, contradict or whatever you want to say him. It includes very modest estimates on our loss of interest, although the interest is the one area where we're going to lose revenue, and it'll be for a while. Interest revenue is not going to go up for another, year and a half to 2 years before we see a recovery in it. Right now, the state has put out guidelines, and I can't honestly even remember where I saw it, but that counties should expect to lose 20 to 30% of their sales tax revenue for each month that we are in these shutdown periods. Obviously that would include the fact that businesses are shut down and people just aren't spending their money. We get a little bit more than $1.5 million each month in sales tax. So 20% of that is, 350,000 to 400,000. 30% of that gets you up into 550, 600,000. And if you assume that we were out for half of March, all of April, and now assuming all of May, that puts us right around 1.5 million just in sales tax revenue lost.
What's the percentage that the state is suggesting?
Between 20 and 30 was the
20 to 30.
recommendation that they could put out. Yeah, they are starting to get, the problem is March was a mixed month anyway, because it was halfway and halfway, and businesses are just now reporting the March figures. So everything is still very speculative at this point. We don't actually have hard data to work off of. Sales tax isn't broken out by week. So even with March, it's hard to tell. The first 2 weeks were probably higher. The second 2 weeks were much lower. It's hard to tell what the impact was exactly. we'll have better data going into May because all of April will have been in this process.
Okay, two questions, Todd. On that first adjustment, I noticed on the second figure, you've got a minus in front of it, but yet you added it. And then when we get to the 1.5 million, you've got a minus and you subtracted it. I'm just kind of baffled by why were they so differently? Is there the first
That is,
one?
yeah, you'll notice the other, and I didn't notice that. I can correct that just for visual. You'll notice the 42 million in 2016. I have an adjustment, and that should be the negative, taking it down to the 40 million.
Okay.
And then 2017, that adjust. Basically, what happened is in early 2017, we received almost 600,000 in revenues that should have hit in 2016. And so it kind of looked like we had this big spike going on when really we didn't. And so that's why I make that adjustment there. And it was more relevant back in 2017 and 2018 when we were talking about the numbers. But I'll fix that so that it's consistent with the other one.
Okay, and Todd, with the wages and the percent benefits, we've got a 1 and a star. Is there a notation somewhere that you have a note?
Yeah, that make it on. For the 2021 and 2022, I'm assuming a 2%. Yeah, it's down at the bottom there. A 2% is what those wages are based on.
Hey, Todd, up at
Yeah.
the top under revenue, the revenue changed from 2018 going into 2019. Is that
Yeah.
because of the sales tax increase, the interest? And did we get reimbursed for the Board of Elections equipment that year?
I believe that hit in 2019. And then there's a bunch of, we got some grants in that year.
Okay.
So probably close to 2 million of that was one-time revenue. There was interest did very well last year, and sales tax actually came on very strong at the end of last year. And so that did account for some of that increase. But like I said, there were some one-time items. I can get those listed out for if you'd like. I hadn't done that.
Well,
today,
I
but
was
I
just
can-
wondering because from 2018, we went from 45 million to 48 million, and then 2020, we went down to 46. So it does look like
Yeah.
it's indicative that there should have been or could have been some one-time revenue in there.
Right. Yeah, and there was.
Okay. So this is just a best guesstimate, and I cautionally say guesstimate at this point in time for the 1.5 million.
Absolutely.
Because I know,
You know,
yeah.
We'll start getting real figures more into May where we can actually begin making better predictions. Like I said, at mid-May, we will know more about what happened in April, with April being a full month in this particular economic phase. The other issue is if this goes into June and July, then we would expect more delinquency on the property taxes. If this would end and wind down quickly here in May, which it depends on who you listen to, but it doesn't sound like it will. But if that would happen, then we would very likely see less delinquencies come July for the property taxes. So, you know, all these estimates are very, very fluid right now, partly because we don't know the answer in order to make a good prediction about what things are going to look like in 2 or 3 months.
And I think, you know, that's the majority of the counties at the state level, as well as the federal government, is already forewarning different departments and directors to start looking for places to cut back, you know, whether it be expenses or what they need to do, because like you said, the longer this goes on with the stay at home or the reduced, you know, workforce, I think it's just going to increase, and to a point that we're going to have to make some serious decisions coming. And I think it's better to plant the seed now that people should start looking at ways they can try to make some cuts. Because the longer this goes on, you know, the more cuts we'll have to make.
Yes. Again, we are in good financial shape, and we worked hard to get ourselves there. We do have a cash balance to work with. One thing I've been trying to encourage the board to do is to come up with your capital plan. You'll notice down below there is a lot of blanks in terms of our facilities. A mistake that a lot of entities make, and in fact, the county made it back in 2008, is that they view capital expenditures as what we do with extra money. And then what happens is during bad times, those tend to get cut first. And now your repairs are just that much greater when you finally do them. So one thing I would encourage you to do is to get that facility plan here made within the next few months, so that when we go to do the serious budgeting cycle in September and October, we have an idea of what capital we can reduce and what operating we can reduce, and how much of the cash balance we want to use to cushion those changes, so that we can make a balanced 3 or 4 year plan here to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Todd,
Yeah.
that 50,000 that you have with motor pool, does that take into account 45,000 that you had asked about before? Is that?
That actually is.
Okay.
Yeah, the 45 is just for the, we currently have contract bids for 45. Of course, I budget a little higher because you're going to have inspections and maybe something comes up when they start digging.
Right.
So I put 50 as a placeholder for budget. If we come in under that, obviously good for us. But then, I don't know if your guys' intention is to sell that building as is, or if you're going to do some other work to it. That's something to consider. I do know we had an interested party that wanted it kind of as a shop. He was very excited that we had the larger electrical array. So it may be an attractive building to sell as is. But, we have a ton of equipment in there. And I assume Mickey, Bill, and Gene will want some of it. The question is, what do we do with the rest of it? And are we going to get revenue in terms of selling it, or are we actually going to have to pay to have it moved out? Those are things we need to start getting answers to.
Okay. And then Todd, Pretty Glen Dam. I talked to Joanne yesterday on that, and she said we did get the invoice or the amount projected to get the easements across. I think there's like 5 houses that we needed to get an easement. And I think they estimated the cost for that of being about 150,000 to get the easement so that we can access. So that being said, is that something that we're in a position to move forward with at this time, or is there still more work to be done on that? Are you aware of any?
Well, and you're going to want to have the design engineer come in and speak to you again.
Okay.
The grants I know have dried considerably, although there are still grant opportunities. And so the question is, do you want to stagger the timing of the dam in with the grant application process, in which case we're probably already too late for 2020. We would be looking at applying for grants in 2021. I think NatureWorks was actually due in March. We need to get that organized. However, there's probably no reason that you can't start buying the easements. And there's probably some design work that we can proceed with this year if you wanted to. Most of the grant money, as we keep indicating, is going to be on the restoration. You're not going to get grant money for the design work. You're not going to get grant money for the tearing down of the dam, but there is considerable grant money, considerable, maybe 300,000 to 400,000 that might be available for the restoration portion. So while we may not be proceeding this year with everything, there are pieces that probably could move forward. And again, those easements or the estimate, whether the property owners will agree to it or not is another issue. But that's a lengthy process in itself, is going out and reaching out to those homeowners.
Okay. And then Todd, you put down there this is what we gave the airport last year for the fuel tank.
And actually that number does need up. 57 was the original estimate. We actually gave them a loan of up to 80. They are still doing the work. They have yet to hire the crane, and then they were going to pay back what they didn't use. But we gave them closer to 80,000 to actually use. I'm still waiting for better estimates on how much of it they really are going to use.
Okay.
And then just to give you guys a heads up, they have come to us and indicated that they would like some additional money to support a grant match. That money would be reimbursed, but it would be possibly 2 years before it got reimbursed. Basically, the FAA has awarded them a grant, but they cannot receive the grant money until certain criteria have met. One of them is moving the taxiway. That's going to take another year, but they could begin the design work now to keep the project on track. The key is they need money to pay the designer. That money would then be reimbursed once the grant actually is awarded, which would probably be in 2022. That amount is around 119,000, which would be an advance then for 2 years, probably, that they would need to keep that. Of course, we would write it as another extension of their loan. You may want to put more stringent language in terms of payback, but that is on the horizon.
Well, I think we're getting to the point that we need to decide what we're going to do with the airport. I mean, they're just not able to generate the income to pay back or do anything. I mean, yeah, we can put in there all the provisions we want, but the reality is they're not going to be able to pay it back. They can't pay what they owe us now.
Yeah, their base loan, they won't be. Now, this one would be reimbursed. You could request that the reimbursement come straight back to you, but you're right that there is a bigger issue there. The annex building, Riddle Block, the motor pool, and the airport are 3 of your facilities in particular that probably should get a better plan in place for what it is we're going to do with those facilities, because there's considerable amounts of money that could be spent in each of those, depending on which way that we want to go with them.
And Todd, does these projections reflect Kelly Jo moving completely out of the annex for the loss of rent that we'll lose from there? Is that reflective in these figures yet?
I haven't done that because I haven't heard if that's actually official and what date it would be official. So no, I have not put that down in writing into these projections. That is in the back of my mind. I have heard, rumors to that effect. So if you guys have better information, I could update this. But, the question is, if she leaves the annex, what are you going to do with it? One option would be to move some of the record center records to the annex. I don't know if it's a better facility, but at least it's definitely closer to the departments that use it, because we've been talking about trying to do something with the record center. But this is all stuff that needs coordinated together rather than looked at in isolation.
That annex building just doesn't seem to have any more useful life to me. I mean, unless we put money into it.
Yeah.
And for office space, that's absolutely true. Unfortunately, just last year, we did put a new roof. We put some of the new, window, whatever you want to call it, trims, touch up and that type of thing. Now, for a storage facility, maybe you would get some years out of it. I don't honestly know. That may be something you'd want to have an architect come and look at. But for office space, I would agree with you. There would be too much money to put into it to turn it into office space.
And Todd, another thing that we probably aren't considering, because we know it's coming, but I know several of the departments are considering the unions to come to us regarding hazard pay.
A lot of counties receive those requests. Of course, Dave Doak forwarded you guys a request from the sheriff's attorney indicating that they want to talk about it. And chances are some other unions will follow suit. Combined with that, the fact that, for example, JFS receives a lot of money through property taxes. Should they receive a significant portion of delinquencies, we may need to subsidize them until that catches back up. So there's a lot of issues that are going to be pending here, particularly on the operational side, that are going to need discussed. We don't necessarily have enough information right now, but definitely we want to be tickling the back of our brains with some of these things when we start thinking about other issues.
And Todd, that's why I cautionly say we need to be careful that we're in a good financial position, because the wind can be knocked out of our sail within 2 months, to the point that we need to be looking at very serious cuts, and it'd be across the board. I mean, and again, a lot of that carryover was due to projects that we have funds for that we haven't pursued. So I just cautionally ask, when you say we're in a very good financial position as of today, but 2, 3 months from now, that drastically changes. And I think we need to start making the conversation that we need to be looking at what ways we can cut, whether it be, expenses, and that goes across the board for everyone in the county.
For sure. And, I've indicated in the past, it would be a shame if the entirety of this cash balance was ran down just to cover an operating deficit. The point of having built this up was so that we could do some capital projects without having to go to debt. I would still like to see some of those projects get done. It's too convenient to say, well, these are bad times, let's put those projects off. But 15 million goes quick when you start talking about some of the needs that we really do have.
And the federal government right now is only offering like reimbursement for like expenses due to COVID-19. Anything that would have been budgeted, like Ryan's salary or whatever, we could not get reimbursed for unless there was specific things, obviously he's doing, like trainings or meetings or whatever that increase or PPE or whatever. And it's my understanding, even if the federal government does kick in, it's not going to be near enough, to fill in.
There's a lot of fuzziness in what they're going to reimburse. I just asked Ryan earlier this week, it's possible, and actually we've gotten a couple requests. I call them sneeze guards. But all of the counters in the admin building are just open air between the employee and the customer standing before them. Those type of purchases that perhaps offer better protection to employees but aren't directly related to the treatment of COVID itself, I'm not sure those are going to be reimbursable. Ryan is checking on that. But it's possible as part of the opening up plan, people are going to want some of those things installed. Those expenses are going to be on us. I have a feeling that things like hazard pay are not going to be reimbursable if they would be agreed to. We are checking on that as well. So the up is going to have some expenses associated
loss
with it.
of revenue is not going to be reimbursable, at least with what funds are out there for us now to seek from the federal government. But
no, those are just covering our additional expenses that we've had.
I know there's still so many people that are still not getting through unemployment. I mean, it's going to start getting ugly. So, okay.
Thank you for this update. If you would like to bring us some recommendations, and I'd be happy to talk to you over the next week and in preparation for next meeting or future meetings about some actions that we can take. But this information is very helpful, and I know you'll continue to share with us as we learn more, especially as we get to the end of April and in the beginning of May. And from what you're telling us, we'll have even more specific information with which to make some decisions on sooner rather than later.
It'll be nice to get some data related specifically to us. How badly has the isolation hit Portage County versus other counties? Obviously some counties are going to be affected more than others. Some counties rely more on tourism. I don't believe we're one of those counties.
No.
So statewide they're giving those averages, but it'll be nice to finally figure out how exactly this is impacting us. Excuse me, those answers will hopefully start becoming a little clearer come May.
Is there anything else you want to make sure we're thinking about in the coming days?
No, the tax budget is going to start here in May. which is where we will be asking the courts and the treasurer and the auditor in particular to be estimating what they feel some of their revenue losses are going to be, both for this year as well as going into 2021. So it'll be nice to get their thoughts on, you know, how much of these fees, for example, are being displaced and we're going to get them later versus how much of them are simply being lost because, you know, these cases or transactions or whatever just are never going to happen again. So that will also make the picture clear as that data starts being turned in by those office holders throughout May. And then from that point, we're going to have to start working on some serious forecasts. That'll be through the June to put together the tax budget. But I think by July, which is when we pass the tax budget, we're going to be able to put together a much clearer picture, and we can then use that picture to go out and say, here's where we're at. Part of what I would like to see in that picture, though, is some of these facilities filled in a little bit better with what we want to do in the next 2 or 3 years, because I think it's important to go to the elected officials and be able to say, you know, yeah, we have $50 million, but $2 million of it's going to this building just to put a roof on, or you know what I mean? People don't appreciate some of that. A parking lot paving is $300,000. I mean, the money goes quick when you start talking about some of those type of things. So it'd be nice to have that piece in place come July as well, whether it's definitive, but at least a rough idea that then we can start moving in September and October to make things work.
Okay, that's helpful. That's good food for thought over the coming days. And again, any recommendations you have moving forward, we're very open to hearing those. And I'd like to continue some conversations in preparation for future meetings of potential cost saving actions that we could take in light of this information that you're sharing with us and will continue to share with us.
Absolutely.
And Todd, you and I will continue our conversations as well and suggestions. So I just echo that, like I said, I just want to be ahead of this, not behind it.
That's always a better place.
Yes.
Agreed.
It is.
All right. I think with no further business before the board, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, Amy?
Kathleen?
Yes.
Vicky?
Yes.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.